Welcome to Chicken and Life. I'm Adrienne, the turquoise lady, and I wanted to show you something super fast. Okay, so animals, that's us, okay? We produce carbon dioxide when we breathe out, and then the plants take that in and they put out O2, which we breathe in, and then we put out CO2, which plants take in and breathe out O2, and then we take in O2 and breathe out CO2, and that keeps the earth going. I had an epiphany this morning, and I thought, what if climate change by people is total BS? The fact of the matter is that in the last 5 years, that every summer has been hotter and hotter and hotter. So, are we just gonna sit here and wait until we get cooked, or are we gonna try to do something about it? And I think of the Titanic movie. Am I gonna be the dude that's just like, oh, whatever, we're all gonna croak anyway, so I'm just gonna like sit down and wait for it, or are we gonna at least go out fighting? And I say fighting. So I looked up what I can do to combat climate change, and I found a United Nations article, and it said lots of cool things, but I argue that even if we only each do 1 or 2 of these things, anything is better than nothing. So it suggested walking or biking when possible. So if things are close, walk or bike. So that's good for your body, and it's good for your emotional health. I like the stuff that is a win for the planet and a win for us. See, if we're not taking our car, then we're not pumping out CO2 and other bad gases for the planet. Eat more plants. Okay, so also this helps us be healthier, but if we're eating plants instead of animals, it's also better for the environment, because animals put out gases that warm the environment. Plants take in the CO2 that the animals put out, and they put out oxygen. So if we're eating things that were grown, then we're eating things that made a bunch of CO2 before we ate them. And when we eat them, it's better for our physical health and our emotional health. You could pick up trash in your neighborhood or join an organized cleanup effort. And you can Google it, look for stuff like that, because the trash in the neighborhood can start breaking down, and then it contaminates the water and contaminates the air. So it contaminates us. And then if you're picking up trash, that means you're being physically active, and that's good for your physical and emotional health. Avoiding things, using things, and buying things that are made of plastic, because plastic breaks down into unnatural compounds. So for instance, if we had like a wicker laundry basket, when it starts to break, it's made of plants, and it breaks down in the landfills and stuff into natural products, because it's a natural product. But plastic is a man-made product, and when it breaks down, it contaminates stuff. So that's bad. So if we can buy things that are not made of plastic, that are made of things that come from the earth, like plants, again, then as they're growing up, they're making O2 for us. Okay. Also, not supporting companies that hurt the environment. So for most of us, that means not buying products made by companies that are harming the environment. A simple Google search will help you find these companies. Okay, I found some, I think The Guardian had a list of different companies that were hurting us, and a lot of them were energy companies, like oil companies and stuff like that. Those companies should start reinvesting in sustainable stuff like geothermal, solar, wind. I know that a lot of people think it's ugly, but we'll get used to it. It'll become the new normal, just like those little oil derrick thingies did back in the day. So there you go. In with the jobs that produce wind and solar, out with the jobs that produce oil that messes up the environment. Okay, so another thing, buy less stuff. When we buy clothes and purses and furniture that we don't need, it takes energy and CO2 gases to make those things. So if we don't buy them, they don't get made as much. Now, I'm not saying don't buy furniture when you need furniture. That would be silly. You still gotta buy stuff, but just don't buy stuff you don't need. That's all. That stuff clutters up your life and is mentally and emotionally oppressive anyway. And then you gotta worry about paying it back. Like, it's a lose, lose, lose when you buy extra stuff. Bumping up the thermostat 2 degrees in the summer and bumping it down a couple degrees in the winter helps you save energy. And so that way you can also help the environment. Changing out the high energy sucking up light bulbs and using like LED light bulbs, that helps you save some energy. And you can start replacing the incandescent, the old-fashioned ones first. Just start with a couple of those. You could buy 2 new LED light bulbs per month and you're gonna be still doing huge things for the environment. Hang things to dry on a rack in the tub or shower instead of using the dryer, another way to save energy. Buying energy efficient appliances, heating units, and air conditioning units. Making sure that the insulation in your house is up to date. That one, I was reading something recently that said you're supposed to do it every 20 years. That's really often to make sure that your insulation is up to date. Maybe like even if it's every 30 years. So if you have an older house, get it checked out. Maybe it's time for you to update a couple of things. And you don't have to do stuff all at once, right? You could just do it a little bit at a time. This month I spend X amount of dollars. Next month or 6 months from now, I spend a little bit more. Sending a letter to congressmen to tell them to do more stuff to fight climate change. Again, assuming that what people do isn't harming the environment at all. It's just BS. But let's do what we can to fight it anyway. Another cool thing is the planting of the trees. Okay, and so if you just look up, like, how do trees help the environment, you're probably gonna find something that talks about like planting 1 billion trees. There's a group that's the goal for them is to plant 1 billion trees. Okay, so why are trees important? Because they're a plant and they take in the they take in the CO2 and they pump out O2. So basically they're sucking in the pollutants and producing air for us to breathe. So they're improving our air quality. They improve water quality. They reduce flooding. Here's why, because when the water hits the leaves, it like slowly comes to the ground or it evaporates into the air. And that is gonna help reduce flooding. And it reduces erosion too, because the tree roots like hold into the ground and they hold the soil from being washed away. So all plants do that, but trees is what this article was talking about. They make the air a better temperature. So they temper the climate, it said. All right, so what does that mean? If you go stand by a tree right now, you are gonna find that standing by that tree, the air feels cooler. That is because a little bit of moisture is coming out of the leaves. It's called transpiration. We perspirate, trees transpirate. So what is that? It's giving off a little bit of water. It cools the tree. And if you're standing by the tree, it's cooling you. It conserves energy. So if you have a tree blocking the sun in the afternoon, then your house or apartment doesn't get quite as hot, and then that helps you with your power bills. If it's a tree that loses its leaves in winter, then that allows the sun to come through And that helps you warm the house, so it saves you power in the winter. And then if you have trees that are blocking your wind in the winter, then that helps you with your power bills too. They are good for the economy because they increase the home value. And if you have trees in shopping centers, they have found that people spend more money. What else do they do? They reduce, never mind. They create habitats for other plants that can grow underneath them, or animals that can live in them or under them. They improve our physical and emotional health. So they have found that when people are in a hospital and they can see trees out their windows, that they heal faster. So that would be true for rehab centers as well. It's good for our emotional health, which is why it's good for our physical health. So if we feel better emotionally, that is also a win. So plant a tree. It reduces crime. They have found that in areas where there are more trees, there's less crime. Not really sure about how that goes together. It reduces noise pollution because the sound gets all kind of blocked and mixed up by the leaves and the branches of the trees, and so then it blocks some of the sound. And if there's a lot of trees planted together, that's especially true, but it also blocks ugly views of things. And it promotes community. Trees just make us feel better. If we feel better, we're more likely to go outside and hang out and meet other people, which helps us feel better emotionally. It helps us live longer. If we're talking to people, it challenges our brain, and that helps us live longer and have a better quality of life. So if it's good for the trees and the environment, it's also good for us. So now what I'm saying is, people aren't creating climate change, but maybe there's something we can do to fix it. Anything's better than nothing. So I'm gonna do what I can to fight it. Are you with me? This is Adrienne from Chicken and Life. Thank you for listening.